Hello and welcome to One Stop Co-op Shop Streamed, your one stop for co-op news and playthroughs. And today I'm playing through Marvel Champions, and I'm hoping everybody can play through Marvel Champions. This is an exciting thing for me. It's something I've been thinking about doing for a while. This is a tutorial video, not only on how to play Marvel Champions through Tabletop Simulator, but also how to play Marvel Champions, period. So for those of you who have never played Marvel Champions before, this is a great video for you to get started with. And I'm actually going to play through, hopefully, a full game after I'm done as well. So the first thing I'm going to teach is how to use Tabletop Simulator, and then I'm going to teach how to play Marvel Champions. So this is exciting for me. Hopefully it is for you all as well. And please feel free to ask questions in the live chat if you have them. Now, before I get started, I do want to say that Marvel Champions is a game that came out by Fantasy Flight Games and is coming out by Fantasy Flight Games. Please support them. Tabletop Simulator is not a replacement for the physical game. This is something that you should use if you have friends that play, that live far away from you, things like that. It is not a substitution for the physical card game. It is something that you could use to play at long distances. So that's my 2 cents. If you like a game, you should support it. And so I'm 100% for supporting publishers. But Tabletop Simulator is a great way that Terrence and I have been able to play together, and we live very far apart. He lives in Texas, I live in Maryland, so it gives us a chance to play across great distances, which is nice. So that's my 2 cents. That's my, jargon for why I don't mind playing games on Tabletop Simulator. Every game I play on here, I either own or is a publisher put out demo. And I do think they're great. This is a great way to try out games and demo games, but I also think it's important to support publishers, or we're not going to get new games and we're not going to get new content for the games that we have. So let's talk about Tabletop Simulator. What is it? Well, it is an online program that lets you play games as if you are playing them on the tabletop. So let's see, tabletop, if I put that in, Tabletop Simulator came in. Of course, if it doesn't for you, you can type the whole thing out. And I'm just doing a Google search here, Tabletop Simulator on Steam, and that's where I got it from. I don't know if you can buy it not on Steam, but certainly I have a Steam account, and that's where I watch it from. So when you look at it here, you'll notice that it is $20 to purchase. It is often on sale for $10, or you can buy a 4-pack if you want to buy it for you and your friends for $60, and that'll let you all play. It does often go on sale though for half price, but even at $20, I think it's a great value. So you're going to add it to your cart, you're going to buy it, and that's how you get Tabletop Simulator. There are games that are premium games that you can buy within Tabletop Simulator, and these are all publisher-supported games. This is definitely a way, if you buy one of these, I would say they're not expecting you to buy the physical version of the game. Certainly, they don't mind if you do. Certainly, it's good advertising for themselves for the physical version of the game, but these are all games that are definitely publisher-supported, so you can do some add-ons. But I'm going to show you how to get Marvel Champions on there, which is not one of these publisher pay to play versions. So when I open up Steam, so on the bottom of my screen here, this is what the Steam is going to look like. You're going to go to your library, you're going to go to Tabletop Simulator after you've purchased it, and you're not going to hit play yet. You're going to go to Workshop. And Workshop is where you're going to find all these different games that you could download. So I'm going to put in Marvel Champions. Oops. When I do that, a bunch of different stuff comes up for Marvel Champions, but I'm going to show you the mod I like. It's this one right here. It's the Marvel Champions scripted mod by Pwn Star Hero. It's very good, and what you're going to do is you can either check this little checkbox. Actually, I'll add this one right here to my library. Easy as that. Now it's going to be in when I open up Tabletop Simulator. But the other way to do it is look inside. And what I often like to do is look at the date it's posted and updated. This one stays updated very regularly. So I definitely like paying attention to that when it was recently updated. But there are lots of games in Tabletop Simulator. Let's see. And the other thing you can do is hit subscribe from in here. So once I got that going, I am going to now go back to my library. I hit Tabletop Simulator and I hit play. And let's go ahead and open it up. And once I'm in here, I'm also going to teach you about hotkeys, things like that, the things I use to make my plays more easy. Once I get going, it does take a minute to get going, and you do need a fairly decent computer to play on Tabletop Simulator. But now that it's going, I am actually going to switch my view. So 1 second here to my normal view. And I'm going to transition, although it doesn't seem to be ready in the background yet. There it is. All right, so I'm transitioning to that. And now you'll just see my normal Tabletop Simulator view. And what I want to do is I could either join somebody else's game. I could join. There are many, many games out there. I could probably type in Marvel Champions, see if somebody has a game going. But actually, I look friends only, so it's not going to show up. None of my friends are playing Marvel Champions right now. But you know, you could do that. You could take off friends only. You could do lots of different stuff. But I'm not joining a game today. I'm going to create a game. Create a multiplayer game. Now you could also create a hot seat game where you play with people on your same computer, or a single player game where people aren't allowed to get on. I'm going to do a multiplayer game even though I'm not playing with anybody. This is the Tabletop Simulator version I just downloaded. If you'll notice, it is not the one I typically play with, but the most recent stuff you download is always going to be on the left, and it's going to load and it's going to do things. And this is a cool mod if you are looking for lots of custom content. Look at this. Oh my gosh, the number of things up here. They got Phoenix up here. They've got Red She-Hulk, Rogue, Storm. I mean, if you're looking for custom content, this mod is the one that has it. But I don't do that normally. I just play the Fantasy Flight release stuff. So if I don't want something to show up anymore, I could just go up here and delete it. It doesn't delete it forever from anything. It just means it's not going to be in my workshop anymore. But the one I use is this one over here. So that's the scripted one, again by Pwn Star Hero. And when it loads up, it looks like this. Now you notice, if you have watched any of our Marvel streams before, that this is not what it looks like when you all watch me play. And the reason is I love this background. I think it is very cool, but I also think it is very busy. So one thing I like to do right away is I go Objects, Tables, Custom Rectangular Table, and it'll just put a white table out there. So that makes it nice and clean. It works perfectly for this mod. If you don't want something clean, you notice I have a picture in the background. I could go over here, look at my pictures, and do banner, open. And I upload it and I import it, and now I've got that. Now, the only problem with this, when you do this, is you're gonna have hands. Where your hand of cards is not gonna be in the right spot. If you notice, actually, my color here is white. And if you look up here, my color is white. I could change my color to whatever color I want, but green's all the way up here and blue's all the way up here. Well, what do I do in this situation? First of all, you don't have to go through all this. If you play the mod as is, it's gonna have the hands in the right place, all this stuff. So this is, I guess, a little bit more advanced version of anything you need to know. So definitely not something you need to know. So I could change my color to whatever I want. I'm gonna change to green and it's gonna turn me to that spot. Now I don't wanna do that for right now, so I'm gonna change back to white. But that's not going to last for long because I'm going to teach you how to deal with that. All right, so if you look over here, this is the hands, and this shows you every hand in the game. So I'm going to delete. I just hit the delete button. I hold my mouse over it, and I just hit the delete button. As I am deleting these, it gets rid of these different hand zones, and usually I'll leave one for Terrence and one for myself. I am going to leave two here because I might show you some stuff with some hands. So green and blue, I just change it that way, and boom, I am ready to play. Got to go back to the grab icon and do that. So how do you get started? I'm going to teach you some keystrokes, things like that work for any mod, but for this mod specifically, I'm going to show you some of my favorite things that I like to do. And if you have any questions, by the way, please feel free to ask them in the chat. So I'm going to hit the start button here. I'm going to hit one player. Now what that does is it loads up all the villains and stuff like that with one player. Now it doesn't change any of this over here, but all the villains' health and everything else is going to be set up for one player. If I try to change, what I typically will do at that point is go back and start all over. There is a way to hit start again and choose a different player count, but I don't know how well that works. I wouldn't recommend that. I definitely recommend starting from scratch again if you get the wrong player count or whatever else at the beginning. Now, the only time that doesn't apply is if you were going to play the new campaign, Mad Titan Shadow. You have to place this. All the villains from the other campaigns are here and they work fine with that start button, but it takes a little while. I've noticed they did this with every campaign. You'll see 1 player, 2 player, 3 player, 4 player. Actually, if you watch some of our earlier playthroughs, it would always get the health wrong, and I couldn't figure out why. It's because I kept doing the 1 player version. You want to do the 2-player version if you're playing with 2 or 3-player version. So for the newest one, Mad Titan Shadow, they'll eventually put it in the way they do with the rest of it. But for now, you're going to have to select that, and then you could return them, but you could place it and select what you want to do with that. All right. So then you are going to select a villain. For this playthrough and for this teach, I am just going to play Rhino. So when playing with a villain, you have a choice of standard or expert. So depending on which side you click on, it is going to set up either standard or expert. I am going to do standard Rhino. Again, this is going to be a teaching/learning game. All right, so it sets up basically everything you want up here in the middle. The only thing it doesn't do, it's just got the 21 Rhino cards here. Well, it's not 21 because some of them are over here. And it's got the standard encounter set. Oh, look, I've already flipped Shadows of the Past right at the beginning. That's always going to be on top, so you got to make sure to shuffle it, but I'll teach you how to do that in a minute. Now, you're going to want to add modular encounters probably. The way you do that, oh, how am I zooming in without zooming all the way in? Well, first of all, I can use my mouse wheel to zoom in and out. I use W, A, S, and D keys. Let's start really back at the beginning to move up, down, left, right. Now, if that is not the way yours is, I think you could do menu, and you could do configuration, and you could do controls, and then that'll tell you WASD is how you move around. You can grab with the mouse. So when I'm grabbing something, if I want to grab a card, I hold down the left mouse button and I move. If I want to grab multiple things, let's say I got a bunch of stuff over here, I'd drag and highlight over all of them, and I grab and move them. Once they're together, if I want to put them back together as a deck, I hit the G button. I don't know why G, I guess G for gather? Yeah, we'll say gather. Gathers all those cards back up again. Well, now that I've got all those, I do want to put in his modular encounters, and they've got a bunch of them down in the bottom. Even if you've watched this play, you notice they have the Kree Fanatic one, which is a print and play only expansion that Fantasy Flight put out. So if I want to zoom in, again, I hold the left Alt key, and it tells me the contents: Rhino 1, Rhino 2 for standard, and Rhino 2 and 3 for expert. Recommended encounter set, it says it wants the bomb scare. So to add bomb scare, I go down here to my modulars, I look, and I just hit bomb scare, and boom, it adds it. And it is not on the top. So, oh, how am I flipping these cards? So if I want just one card, I'm going to grab and move. Well, I'm going to left click and move quickly if I'm just trying to grab one card off the top of a deck. If I want to grab the whole deck, I click and hold, and you'll notice the whole deck comes up, and that's going to move. So when I'm over the deck, if I hit F, it's going to flip the entire deck, not just one card. To zoom in again, it's the left Alt key. Whoops. It's the left Alt key, and that'll show me that I have the bomb scare cards in there. That's 1, that's 2. So it added bomb scare into that deck. Now, what do I do to shuffle the deck? I'm going to hit R. R for randomize. So remember, G gathers, R randomizes, and that'll shuffle up your card. Hey, Ryan. Ryan says hello, hello. Hello to you, Ryan. If you have any questions on how to play TTS or how to do anything on TTS or how to play Marvel Champions, go ahead and ask. I'm going through TTS first. I'm going to have a timestamp later on for jumping ahead to just how to play Marvel Champions. We'll make it a definite, distinct point, so if you know how to play Marvel Champions, you don't have to watch that part, but it's a good place, I think, for a bunch of people to start if you want to start and learn the game. So R again randomizes. You only have to do it once, but as you can see, I like to do it a lot. The other option, which sometimes you'll see people do, is left click and hold. Again, picks up the whole deck, and then if you move it around, they'll shuffle as well. Sometimes I like doing that because it's a little more fun. When you are on health trackers, if you want to move it up, you left click. You want to move it down, you right click. That is also the way these threat trackers work. And it also works for these damage counters. Left click up, right click down. So that gives you some things, and then they have these cool portals here that you can drop things into to destroy them. Another way to delete something, though, is just to hold over it, mouse over it, and hit the delete key, and that'll delete it as well. Now, only the person with this crown, the host, can do those things. So, yep. So with this mod, you can choose a seat by hitting sit here, but the other option, as a remember, is to change your color, and you could change to any of the ones. Now remember, I deleted a lot of the other seats, so you aren't going to be able to select all those, but you just click the button and you go to that spot. So if I want to show my cards, because I got asked that question as well. Or the other option, actually, oops, here, let's say pick a neutral color. Here it says sit here if you look. Oops. Now, maybe you guys know better than I do. There you go, that's gone. All right. So you'll notice also I could hit sit here. That works for this mod specifically. They have cool ways to change your color without doing that. I don't know the G button. Again, G button gathers. So again, if you have multiple things, you can highlight everything up. G just gathers it back up, puts it all in one spot. All right, now if I want to sit somewhere, we already talked about that. Now, how do we see multiple hands? If you notice when I do the stream on Tabletop Simulator, I can see everybody's hands. You may or may not want to do this, but all you have to do is change your team. I changed my team to diamonds. If I had somebody else in and they were also on team diamonds, I would be able to see their hidden information or what is in their hand. So that's the nice part about that. You can do diamond if you want to see each other's hand. So again, if I want to zoom in, I hold the Alt and I can look at those things while I am zoomed in, or anytime actually, if I want to rotate something. First of all, rotation degrees is important. So if I want to rotate something a little, I could set it to 15 degrees and rotate it a little bit. If I want to rotate more, and oh, can you guys see this? Yes, you can. All right. I was like, oh no, is my big fat head covering it? 30 degrees, it'll rotate a little bit more each time I do it. 45 degrees. Rotate it a little bit more each time I do it. So if you want to like partially tap and then fully tap, I like to go to 90 degrees because that's a full exhaust and unexhaust action over there. So in order to do that, not only do I have to set the right rotation, but to rotate right, I'm going to hit E. To rotate left, I'm going to hit Q. So my fingers are already on WASD to move around, up, down, left, right. And then right next to that are E to exhaust and Q to unexhaust. So that's how you do it. It also works if you're zoomed in. Let's say, for example, I got this card, and let's say it wasn't face up. While I'm holding the Alt key, if I hold Q key, or if I hit Q key, it will rotate the card, or E. Same way as if I've never tried to partially rotate. You know what? Now I'm curious. If I'm this way, yep, it partially rotates as well. So it works the exact same way as if it is on the table. So Q and E will help you rotate. And then again, now that I know what those cards are, I'm going to hit R to shuffle, to randomize. Now this card is on its backside, so I don't want to do that. I am going to flip it over to its main side so I can deal with the main threat here. Now, how do I get my character set up? Well, there's two ways to do it. Well, there's several ways to do it, but the big one is you're going to select a character. For this, I am going to play She-Hulk. Now, again, they have all the released characters so far. Some of the newer ones, they don't have all the character art for playmats and stuff like that, but that is definitely an option. So I'm going to pick She-Hulk, though, and we have a choice of starter or a constructed deck. I'm going to hit starter, and I'm going to zoom back so you can kind of see what happens when I hit the S. So S for starter, and it goes ahead and sets up my entire play area, including my entire starter 40 card deck. Now let's say I didn't want to do that. You have a couple of options. I'm going to, I guess, do it over here for blue. Let's go ahead and say blue wanted to construct their hero, and they wanted to play Captain America, right? So when you do constructed, it gives you the 15 cards, and then you can go up top and you can place the aspect cards. You can, first of all, place the neutral cards here and then return them. You can also place your whatever aspect you like to use. There's spots for two. I mean, a lot of times, obviously, it makes sense to do one for the neutral cards, but you can deck build right from here. Now, they only give you one copy of each card here. So to make more copies, if I wanted to add Haymaker, I'd hit Control C to copy and then Control V to paste. Dan says, what are the keys to zoom? You know, I don't know what the keys to zoom are, but to zoom, I use my mouse wheel. So if you don't have a mouse wheel, let's look. So menu, let's go to configuration. We go to controls. Let's see. Rotate left, rotate right, zoom in and out. Mouse wheel or none. So mouse wheel is your only option, but thankfully they let you press a key and add whatever you want. Now mouse 0 is going to do that for me, and I'm going to reset to default because I don't want it to do that. But bottom line is you can use your mouse wheel to do certain things. If you don't know how to do something, you can always look on controls, and you can always change it if you don't like how it's currently done. So again, that's under menu, under configuration, And then it'll start here with game. You can do a lot of stuff. One thing I like to do, I taught Baron about the other day, is I guess it's under graphics. I do full screen. I uncheck this full screen because that lets me minimize and maximize this window. I really like to not have it on full screen. So that is one of the non-default things I think I do. But beside that, everything is pretty standard. All right, so Control C copies while you're highlighted over the thing. Again, Control C. Now I've got 2 haymakers here. If I Control C, Control V, it's going to copy both of them. And you can tell it's 2 because when it's over it, you see that number 2 right there in the middle of my mouse. There's a 2. On this one, it doesn't have 2. So that's a way to tell. Now, when I did all of that, getting my character and stuff and all that, you notice this little box over here, and that says Nemesis. That actually puts our Nemesis cards in there. So it's got Captain America, which I don't need anymore. So I'm going to delete that because I'm not going to be playing with him. But they also have She-Hulk stuff. Now there's another set of standard Nemesis cards in there right now, which are these, like, I forget what they're called, but event cards that go in the enemy deck. I guess they do that because they want them to be the right size. And by the way, you could just drop those back in. They want to do the right size to fit in this deck. Because if you notice, my cards are a lot smaller than the enemy cards. So if they, I guess that's just a way to get ones that are full size. Now you can also right click on any object and hit search over here. And you will see I've got their starter deck and I've also got those other 4 cards. So if I just want to pull those out, even though it's not the top thing in there, I can go ahead and do that. Also, when I drop it back in, I can't do that. All right, so let me escape out. Let me drop it back in. Now it's going to be on top. So the first thing that comes out would be that again. If I want to change that order, I could right click, I search again, and you could actually mess with the order. So now when I pull it out, my Nemesis is on top again. So that's kind of a neat little trick. Again, you don't need all these tricks, but I think they're somewhat useful if you're trying to learn Tabletop Simulator. So let's talk about zooming. How do I zoom, make something bigger or smaller? To make something bigger, I'm going to hit the plus key. And actually it's the equal key because I'm not holding shift at the same time. So it's the plus key on my keyboard, or again, the equal key. And to make it smaller, I'm going to hit the minus key. So that'll make objects bigger or smaller. Now, wait a minute. It's not the same size as my other cards anymore. That's okay. You'll notice it's a little bit bigger. Usually when you put something on top, it'll resize to the right size. But if it doesn't, like in this situation, if I hit minus, it'll make it a little smaller. Minus, it'll make it a little smaller. And then at some point, oops. Now I just made the whole deck smaller, I think. So I can hit plus and make that bigger, but usually at some point it'll grab on and do the right size. So how do I look at the other side of my hero card? I hit the F key, F for flip. F flips this over. Dan says, I play on laptop without a mouse. I do the pinch, it's terrible. Yes, well, again, so just go to menu, configuration, controls, and again, you scroll down to Sorry, it was already scrolled down, so I got to scroll back up. I got to scroll to zoom in and zoom out, and you just click secondary, and you make those whatever you want. So if I want to zoom in with T and zoom out or with G or vice versa, now my mouse hand is off. T, G, it's zooming for me. So that is always an option. G gathers, remember, so I don't want to do that. So let me go back to configuration and reset my controls to default, and now it's not a problem anymore. So last thing I want to cover for TTS tutorial, unless anybody has questions for me, is how to import your own private deck. So I said one way to do it is you could build a deck. The nice part is they give you those starter 15 here, but let's say I don't want to do that. I'm going to hit delete to delete those because I am going to import my own deck. Now, actually, let me go back here. I'm going to transition back over and show you what I do here. All right, so I am going to go to Marvel Champions database. I am going to pick one of my decks. Now, this is silly because I am not going to pick a deck that is Captain America because I don't really have one. Let's see, do I have one? It doesn't matter. All right, I'm just going to pick this Quicksilver deck. So when you build a deck, it shows up here, and you can edit it, do whatever you want. You could publish it, but even if you don't publish it, you can still import it. If you notice up at the top here, it's HTTPS, marvelcb.com, view. I'm going to double click, and just get the number there. And I'm going to hit Control C to copy that number. Then I am going to go back to Tabletop Simulator, and I am going to go up here to Cerebro, and I am going to Control V. I got to click in there to make the box work, and Control V. Now I can always delete whatever's in here by backspacing or whatever else, and then Control V to add the new one in. And you could choose a private or a public one. So if you want to use somebody else's, you could do that by hitting public, because it has a different number for public than for private. So I do that, and I'm going to search for the cards. And then you'll notice it's going to drop all those cards in there, all 40 cards from my deck. Sometimes over here, it will give you an error. And actually, one thing I want to do real quick. Transition back to that. All right, sometimes it will give you an error. And that's because the cards aren't ready yet, so you'd have to find another source for those cards. But again, if you're using cards, that have been around for a while, most of the cards, actually all the cards are currently in there. I don't think they have War Machine and stuff like that yet. So you'd have to find a new way to do that. I can teach you. You right click on it. If you find it in another mod or whatever else, you can right click on it and go down here. Where is it? Save object. You name it whatever you want. Captain America deck, even though it's not Captain America, we know it's Quicksilver, but save, by the way. Again, R to randomize, oops, and that'll shuffle that. F to flip. So this is that deck that we had, I just imported from Marvel Champions DB. Now, if I wanted to load that object, let's say I wanted to save this object here and play it in another game or with my friend or whatever else, I go to Components. And this is some place you can get some cool stuff like dice and stuff like that too. Sometimes I'll use a tracker, you'll notice, a counter. That's great. And again, I can just hit +1 over top of it to make it way bigger. And then I can use it as a health tracker or whatever else if I want. Again, delete while I'm highlighted over it. We'll delete it. Oh, sometimes you notice objects you won't be able to move and won't be highlighted. Like this right here. I can't grab it. You notice when I click on it, it just does whatever. Like if I did this, it would pull it off. But here, can't do anything. That's because it's locked. Sometimes objects are locked. You hit the L key to unlock them. So now it is unlocked. So a lot of times if there's more than one card up here, the top one will be unlocked and you'll be able to flip it, do whatever you want. And then L, the others will be locked. So you just hit L to unlock it. And then you can do what you want with it. All right. So for example, if I try to delete all this stuff right now, I highlight over everything, I hit delete. There's some stuff it doesn't delete. That's because those items are locked. So if I hit L over here, then I hit delete, that'll unlock, and delete, L, delete, and that's gone. So last couple things I want to cover with the mod itself. If you need a boost card, you just hit boost, it drags it over. You can F to flip again and do this to discard. If you want to draw cards into your hand, let's make sure I'm sitting in the right seat. If you want to draw cards into your hand, you hold over your deck. I'm going to R to randomize to shuffle the deck, and I'm going to hit a number. Well, we know on this side I draw a hand size of 6, so I hit 6. Now I've drawn all 6 cards into my hand. It draws the top 6 cards of the deck. Let's say I had cards in play. I know these cards don't go in play. I'm just using it as an example. I discarded some cards to pay for those, right? I got 1 card in my hand, and let's say, again, remember E taps things this way, Q untaps them, but I don't have to untap everything. Once it's on my player mat, then there's a couple of nice buttons over here. Number 1 says take the lead, just gives you the first player token. Ready readies up every card that's on your map. So if I had a bunch of cards over here, they're all tapped, doesn't matter, exhausted, whatever you want to call them, kneeling, lots of different games, doesn't matter, hit U, and it's going to untap all of them. Now remember, I'm going to highlight all of them and hit G to gather them up and put them over here. So now I got these cards in my discard pile. Remember, if I need a certain card, I can always search my discard pile, and that way I can pull out whatever card I want. And a lot of these cards are named. So last thing, if I want to draw up my hand, I have a hand size of 6. I have 1 card in it. Again, I don't have to hit 6 in this situation. I hit 5 because I'm drawing 5 cards. So it's not the hand size you want to draw to. It is the number of cards you want to take off the top of the deck. Now, if you messed up and had actually hit 6, it would have put that card all the way on the right. You can always just take your rightmost card. So again, grabbing with my mouse, dragging off, and then hitting F to flip it, dropping it on my deck, and hitting R to randomize to shuffle my deck up again. So if you make a mistake, it's pretty easy to undo. And that's it. So does anybody have any specific questions for Tabletop Simulator? Now, this is not your hand necessarily. Your hand is actually in this hand spot, but it is always going to show your hand specifically at the bottom of your screen. So even if you're not, so if you want to get your cards, sometimes I'll get confused and try to grab them here. It doesn't really work. You have to grab them from your hand over here. But you can gather them in your hand. Or, again, if I hit 6 to draw them up, while they're in my hand, I highlight the cards, I hit F, and they flip. And then I hit R, and I randomize. So when it says take a random card out of your hand, I do that. Now, the problem is you have to click off of it, because if you'll notice, they were all highlighted. If you try to grab one card, it's going to take all of them. So I click off of it, and I grab a random card. I flip it over with the F key and put it off to the side. So that is it, unless people have extra questions for Tabletop Simulator. Now I'm going to get into my how to play Marvel Champions if there's no more questions. So Brant says, my only complaint is that you can't riffle shuffle the cards and watch the other players cry, says Brant. And if you haven't checked out Brant's channel, it's Step Into the Portal. You should definitely go check it out. He is a regular that watches us on Friday nights and chats with us. So it's great to have him here. He has a great channel, does a lot of Marvel Champions and other games as well. So I know we're One Stop Co-op Shop. We do lots of games. He does lots of games as well, not just Marvel stuff. And his isn't limited to co-op and solo stuff. So a little bit more variety there if you want, if you're looking for to branch outside of the cooperative stuff. So if there aren't any questions, I'm going to make a clean break here, and I'm going to start teaching how to play Marvel Champions. So this is great for you if you want to learn how to play Marvel Champions. It's also great if you're trying to teach somebody the game. Hopefully this will be a good introductory step to them. Now I'm going to hit L over here to unlock these quick reference cards, because I think they will be very helpful while trying to teach the game. I love, and I'm making them big, by the way, just holding the plus key. They get bigger and bigger. It is wonderful. Do-do-do. Do-do-do-do. I'm not doing my normal singing, but who knows? Once we get into the playthrough, maybe I'll start singing more. All right, so we got player reference cards and the villain phase. So if you are new to Marvel Champions, welcome. Thank you for joining us. This is going to be a quick tutorial on how to play Marvel Champions. Now, Marvel Champions is a physical card game. It is not necessarily typically played on the computer. I'm showing you here because I think it is a lot easier to zoom in and things using this program to show you what you need to get. But I will basically go through the basics of the game. If you have the physical card game, it's not going to make any difference. So first thing I want to talk about is what you are trying to do in the game. And you are trying to knock out the villain. And the villain is over here. They have a certain amount of health. You will see their hit points at the bottom of their card. Now this says 14 and it's got a little player icon afterward. What that means is 14 health per player. So if I was playing with 2 players, they would have 28 health. So that would be, and it's, you know, it just multiplies by the number of players. So for 3 players, it'd be 42 health and so on. Then you are trying to do that. How does the villain win? There's 2 ways the villain can win. Number 1 is if he knocks out all the heroes in the game, not just one. So we also have a starting health. If you look on the bottom, we have a starting health for our character. I am going to be playing with She-Hulk today. That is our starting health. And we also have a starting hand size down there, but we'll talk about that part in a minute. So when you, your goal is to knock out the villain, and you don't only need to knock him out once, you actually need to beat him twice. So they've got stage 1 and stage 2, or if you're playing the advanced game, it's going to be stage 2 and stage 3. So you'll notice they have different stats here. Like for example, they have a scheme of 1 and an attack of 2 here, but on their advanced side, they have a scheme of 1 and an attack of 3. So their stats change, and actually there's no special ability down here, but this says when revealed, search the deck and do something. We're going to see that when it happens though. All right, right now, Rhino only has flavor text on the bottom. I am Rhino, I knock things down, that's what I do, that's who I am. And then you'll notice that they have this card over here, which is their encounter card, and our goal is to stop this card from getting threat on it, and I'll explain how that works in a second as well. So the way it works is you're going to take card 1A from their encounter deck. They may have multiple. Now Rhino only has 1 card, but a lot of them, actually almost everybody beside Rhino, has more than one of these cards, and you're going to read and do what it says. So it says what the contents are, and then it says you're going to add 1 modular to the deck. It recommends Bomb Scare for the first one. Now I'm not going to teach you how to set up and all that, but Rhino has their own cards in here. We have the standard encounter cards in here, and then it's going to add one encounter set bomb scare, and you'll know the difference. And then, of course, we actually have our obligation cards, which I almost forgot. So based on your heroes. Now, there's a Captain America card in here. That's because I did something else earlier. Don't worry about that card. Good thing it was on the bottom, though. But you'll notice this card comes from the bomb scare. This comes from Rhino. And then you'll see standard cards in there. There's a standard card as well. And then we're going to have one obligation per player. So all those are in the villain deck, and we're going to take those and shuffle them up. The nice part is they all have the same back, so it's pretty easy. Now, the one thing you don't add in has the same back also, is your She-Hulk Nemesis deck. So that's going to be a deck typically of 5 cards. It's going to have a Crisis card in there. It is going to have a minion card, and basically your I forget what they're called, your Nemesis minion in there. So those you want to just put off to the side to start the game, but you want to shuffle in again the villain cards, your obligation card, and the modular that you decide to use for the encounter. And then you want to shuffle all those things up. Then to set up your player area, you're going to set your health dial to the health that you need. You are going to shuffle up your cards, and then you're going to draw to your hand size. So remember, again, our hand size is 6. So we're going to draw 6 cards. And I've got all 6 of those cards. Now, back up to here. Sorry. Should not have drawn my cards yet. First thing you're going to do is flip this encounter card over and look at this bottom number here. If there is a number there, that is how much threat starts on the threat meter for this encounter at the beginning of the game. We lose the game, so one way to lose is to get all our characters knocked out. The second way is if this threat meter reaches the top, and it's going to go up. If you notice, on the bottom it says 0, that's in the square, so that's the starting threat value. But if you notice, there's a little up arrow here, and it says 1 per player. So 1 per player every turn, it's going to go up 1 per player. And if it ever gets up to 7, we do, if this stage is complete. In this case, we lose the game. So very bad. That is another way to lose. Usually, though, again, you're going to have more than one of these, so it may have different rules for each stage of the game that you are playing with. All right, so let's go over here and kind of see what we're doing. Let's see. There is a little bit of chat. Let's see if any of it is about this. All right, so none of that is specific to what we're doing here. All right, so after we set up the villain and all the encounter steps, and if anything said when revealed, we would have done it now. So for example, if we were playing Expert, you start on the level 2 villain, which by the way has a different amount of hit points. You'll notice the starting one has 14. The advanced one, or the level 2 one, has 15 in addition to having an additional attack. But if we had started here, we would do its when revealed effects. So when revealed, search the encounter deck and discard pile for break and take inside scheme, reveal it, and shuffle the encounter deck. So if and when we see him, that we will have to do the when revealed effect. But we don't have to do that because we don't start with it revealed. All right, so we're going to start with a starting hand of cards, and you usually want to do at the beginning, so you get 1 mulligan. You could discard as many of the cards as you want, and then you can draw back up. Usually at the beginning of the game, you want cards that are going to help you in the long term. So for example, this Law Division, exhaust Superhuman Law Division, and add a mental resource, remove 2 threat from a scheme. So remember, we lose the game. One of the major ways we lose is this going up to 7 per player. We can remove 2, but this only works, if you'll notice, in our alter ego action. What does that mean? Well, your character actually has 2 sides. You have a hero side and an alter ego side. Once per turn, you're going to be able to flip between those sides, and they have different stats. You'll notice this one has a recovery value, so if you are hurt, you can exhaust yourself to recover that much health. On the other side, you can do one of 3 things. You can either thwart, which removes threat from a scheme. You can attack, which does damage to a villain or a minion if you have minions in front of you. Or you can defend, which reduces the amount of damage that you would take. And they also have special powers down here, which are going to be different based on what side they're on as well. And we'll kind of go through them as we get them. So the Law Division is really good for removing threat. You'll notice it says it requires a mental resource, and what that means is you'll notice there are resource icons in the lower part of each of these cards, and I don't have a mental one. There you go. Next one up's mental. So there's 3 different resources. There is physical, energy, and mental resources. And to do this, I would have to exhaust this card, which means tap it, and spend a resource. To spend a resource, you take a card from your hand and put it in your discard pile. That would be spending it. And then I would get to remove 2 threat from the scheme. So that is one way to use your resources. The other way to use your resources is to pay for the cost in the upper left-hand corner. So this costs 1, then I can discard any card in my hand to pay for that. And you get the number of resources listed in the lower corner. Sometimes it's 2, sometimes it's even 3. I don't think any of the resources in this deck are 3, but sometimes it'll even be 3. So you're going to pay those resources to pay for a card. But let's finish our setup. So right now we are setting up and we are deciding which cards we want to keep and which cards we want to discard. So I got legal practice, discard up to 5 cards to remove threat. So that removes threat, but I don't have any threat. And in this game, you're going to redraw your hand every turn, so you don't really want to start with a lot. This one, after you make a basic attack, you can ready yourself. You know, that's a good card, but it's good for later in the game. At the beginning of the game, yes, I could punch for a bit of damage here, but I want cards like Helicarrier here. Max 1 per player. Exhaust it and choose a player and reduce the cost of the next card they play by 1. So again, this costs 3, but now every other card I play this turn will be cheaper for me to play. So cards like Helicarrier that are good for the beginning of the game, you want to start with those in your hand. Split personality, choose your form, flip your identity card, then draw up to your hand size. That's a great card, but not necessarily, well, it's actually not bad for turn 1 because I could flip down again and draw basically a full new hand, but I'm not going to do that. Oh, you know what? Let me double check something. Oh, she does have a hand size of 6. All right, good. Power of Aggression is a great card, max 2 per deck. Double the number of resources this card generates to pay for an aggression card. Well, I don't have an aggression card. This is a basic card, and this is a She-Hulk. So if you look in the lower right corner of the cards, let's see where those actual cards is. If you notice over here, this is a She-Hulk card. This is a basic card. You can usually tell by the outside too. This has a gray outside. Aggression, this is an aggression card. Has a red outside, and then your character cards will be different colored based on the hero you are. But I don't have any aggression cards, and even if I draw them, again, they're usually like attacks and things like that. They're usually not long-term boosts. Because it's turn 1, I'm going to discard that too. I'm going to keep my Law Division, which will help me remove some threat later, and I'm going to keep my Helicarrier in my starting hand. So you get 1 mulligan at the beginning of the game, then you get to draw back up to your hand size. So I draw 4 more cards, and we'll worry about what all this stuff is in a minute. So then we do a player phase followed by a villain phase. So we are going to do our turn with all our actions first, and then the villain is going to do all their actions. And we're just going to follow this. So if we had multiple players, I would take my turn being the first player. You give them the first player marker, then followed by the next player is going to do all their stuff. Then the villain does all of their stuff. So then the first player switches to the next player. Whoever was player 2 before is going to be the first player for the next round. They do all their stuff, and all the players. So if you had 3 players, you know, the next person would play, then back to me, whatever else. So all players are going to take their turns, followed by all the villain actions. So let's go through one by one and see how we play. And the game comes with these great player reference cards, so I definitely recommend for your first couple games keeping them out. If you're playing with less than 4 players, because you get 4 cards if you're playing with 1 or 2 players, which by the way is definitely my recommendation for your first time playing. Definitely play with 1 or 2 players. You want to take 2 of these cards and play 1 with the player reference side up and 1 with the villain reference side up, because it is a double-sided card. So if you're playing 1 or 2 players, you can definitely have both in front of you. But what do you do on your turn? Players take their turns in order. On your turn, you get to play cards. You get to trigger and request actions. So some of the cards will say action on them. You get to play them yourself. Let's see, I don't have any. Hero action. Right? So exhaust, focus, rage, take a damage, and draw a card. So this will let me draw a card. So this would be an action. Not only can the current player do things that say action, but the other players. So let's see. This is an interrupt. This is not an action. If you look on the bottom here, under her player cards, this is an interrupt. So this can happen when something happens. So when threat would be placed on the scheme, prevent 1 of that threat. Limit once per round. So when you're going to add threat to our losing condition, you reduce that number of threat by 1. All right. So But actions you can not only play on your turn, but you can play on other players' turns as well, as long as you request it and they say okay. Then you can use your basic powers, your attack, your thwart, or your recovery. So again, if I'm on this side and I was down a couple hit points, I could recover. I recover up to 5, but I can only get to my maximum hit points, so I'd get back to 15 there. On this side, if I exhausted myself, I could attack. Or I could thwart, which would be removing threat from the scheme over here. So those are your basic actions you can do with your hero by exhausting them. And then the last thing you can do is you could change form limited once per round. Again, you could flip from alter ego to your hero side. Now, another thing to note is you have special powers on the bottom. Like I said, interrupt, whatever. You can use those even if you're exhausted. So over here, response, after you change this form, deal 2 damage to an enemy. Let's say I had recovered, right? So I was here, I was at 13 health. I said, you know what? I want to get that 2 health back. I could recover it. I flip. I can still use this response, even when the card is exhausted. So unless it says exhaust the card as a cost to do something, you can still do it no matter what. And that is it. That is what you're going to do on your turn. Now, remember to pay for cards. You're going to have to discard cards from your hand. And that's what you're going to do. Then at the end of your turn, you're going to discard any number of cards from your hand and draw back up to your hand size. So you don't have to discard cards. If I wanted to hold on to 1 or 2 cards, I could certainly do that and then draw back up to my hand size. So if my hand size is 4, like it is on this She-Hulk side, I would draw up to 4 cards. If I kept 2 in my hand, that means I only draw 2 cards. Or on this side, I get to draw back up to 6 cards. So you are going to discard as many cards as you want to from your hand and then draw back up to your hand size, and then you ready each of your exhausted cards. So some of your cards, like this Helicarrier we pointed out earlier, in order to use it, it's an action. So that means I can use it on any player's turn, exhaust it. And when I do, I choose a player and reduce the resource cost of their next card that player plays in this phase by 1. So it would make, for example, Team Tactics here, instead of costing 3, if I exhaust this, Team Tactics only costs 2 for me to play. All right, so that was a lot. I know it was a lot. If you have any questions, please let me know. That is going to be player's turn. Then we're going to do the villain phase, and I'm going to go through that real quickly, and then we're going to go through an example game. So first thing we do on the villain phase is place a threat on the scheme. Now again, if you look in this up arrow here, it's going to be 1 per player. Now, it's different based on the villain you're playing against, but for this villain, you increase it by 1 per player every single turn. So that's the first thing you do. You may, later on, have acceleration tokens that are out. When you put acceleration tokens in are when the enemy deck is exhausted. So if we go through all 31 of these enemy cards, then we shuffle it up, put it back, start this deck fresh, but now we have an acceleration token. So now instead of just 1 per player, it's going to be 1 per player plus 1. Now the acceleration tokens are not per player, so just plus 1. So if we had 2 players, we'd normally go up 2, and then we'd have a break point of 14 for 2 players. But with the acceleration token, instead of just going up 2, we'd go up 3 if it was a 2-player game. Hopefully that makes sense. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. All right, so that's the first thing we do every villain phase. Then the villain and each engaged minions activates once per player. If you're in hero form, the enemies attack you. You may defend before they play their boost card. I'll explain all that. And if you're in alter ego form, they scheme. So I'm in alter ego form right now. Let's see what that looks like. So we added 1 for the beginning of the round. That's the acceleration. Then the villain activates against me. I don't have any minions in front of me, so it's just going to be the the villain activating, and he is going to activate against every single player based on their current form. Right now, you'll see right here it says alter ego. I am in my alter ego form. I am Jennifer Walters right now. I am not actively fighting the villain, so he is going to work on his evil scheme, which is breaking and taking. He's trying to smash through the facility wall, steal a shipment of vibranium, and you must stop him. So if I am in my Jennifer Walters form, though, I'm not stopping him. He's just breaking in with no one standing in his way. So when you're in your alter ego form, the villain is going to scheme. When they scheme, they use this number up here, so it's going to add 1 to the threat plus we always boost these villain activations. So whether they're scheming or attacking, we're going to boost it. So in this situation, they're scheming for 1. We flip the card. We ignore everything on this card. Literally nothing on this card matters except this bottom right corner right here. You'll see there's one of these symbols. That is a boost icon. That means we increase it by 1, that activation. So normally they'd scheme for 1. There's 1 boost icon. So we're going to add 2 threat to the main scheme, and then we are done. That's the villain activating. If it was an attack, if I was in my hero form, they would attack. I have a couple choices. Number 1, I could just take the attack. So he would attack for 2 plus a boost card. You'll notice there is nothing in the lower right. Again, ignore the rest of the card. Only thing that matters is the lower right. Nothing in the lower right. I just take 2 damage. Boom, boom. Reduce my health by 2. That is one way for me to lose, remember? I lose all my health. I am out of the game. If it's a multiplayer game, everybody else can keep playing until everybody is knocked out. Or, you know, one of the other loss conditions is they keep working on the threat up here. So let's say, though, I didn't, I was already hurt a little bit. I don't feel like taking this as much damage right now. I could always defend. Now, defending exhausts my character. Oh, I forgot to point out, and this is actually very key. So you drop to your hand size. I forgot. Every player readies at the end of their turn. So if I decide to defend here, so I will be ready for the villain's activation for sure, because you always ready at the end of your turn. If I exhaust to defend, that means I am not going to be able to thwart or attack during my activation because I am choosing to defend here. Now, there are cards that ready you and things like that, but in this situation, I am not going to be able to do anything else because I am defending. So let's say I do that though, and I defend for 2. You have to decide before they show their boost card. So they're attacking for 2, I'm defending for 2. So right now, we just subtract them from each other, 0 damage being done, but I'm going to flip a boost card, and what do you know? I got lucky, there's 0 icons. Trust me, they don't all have 0 or 1 icons. Here's one, and these cards are upside down. I don't know why that's the case, but anyway, this one has 2 icons, you'll see. So that would boost for 2. This one has 2 as well. This one also has 2. Oh, look, it's Shadows of the Past, my favorite card. And hopefully you get to see that because it might be your favorite card too. I'm not going to spoil that though if it's your first time playing. It is one of the coolest things about the game is the Shadows of the Past card. But you don't necessarily see it every game. Though if you watch our Friday streams, you would think you see it every game. You don't necessarily see it every game, but it's really cool when it happens. Although it is very difficult when it happens as well. But anyway, all right, so the villain's going to activate against you. That's the villain activating against you. Then you deal an encounter card to each player. So again, from that same deck, remember we ignored 90% of the card. We are not going to do that as an encounter card. So we're going to deal each player an encounter card. So after the villain activates against everybody, then they are going to be dealt an encounter card. Then each player reveals and resolves their encounter cards in player order. So again, if I'm first player, we're going to do all my encounter cards first. Now, why might I have more than one encounter card? Well, you might have more than one. For example, if you go through your player deck. When you go through your player deck, you shuffle all your cards, put them back in a player deck again, but you take an encounter card immediately. So in that situation, I wouldn't have one encounter card, I'd have 2. Now, I don't resolve them yet. I don't take that card when I run out of I don't take that encounter card and resolve it right away when I run out of cards. I just take it, it sits in front of me, and this is when, after we deal one more encounter card to each player, then each player reveals and resolves all their encounter cards. Now, there's another reason I might get it. Of course, none of these are going to have it, but there is a keyword that says surge. Okay. So, for example, Stampede. When revealed, if I am in my alter ego form, this card gains Surge. What Surge means is you just discard it and take a new one. Now, not necessarily discard it, because it might say Surge and then have an effect. But, but Surge just means draw another card. Shadows of the Past. There it is again. It's just taunting me near the top of the deck here. So there are certain things that it will do. But Surge is another way to get extra cards. But you only reveal them during this step, which is each player reveals and resolves their encounter cards. And then you're going to pass the first player token, and then you're going to keep going. So that is the basics. Unless anybody has something, I mean, we can get into real nitty-gritty specifics. There are conditions that you could get. There are 3 major conditions. There's Stun, there's Confuse, and there's Tough. By the way, so in this situation, if I was readied, I could flip over to heal myself for 5, remember? I have 10. I'd go back up to 15 health, or I could have stayed on this side. I could have used my Thwart in the upper left there to remove one threat from the scheme, or I could have attacked, and my attack is 3 and remove 3 health from the villain. So there's a lot of choices here. You're going to be playing cards from your hand. You're going to have cards in front of you that you get to do cool stuff with. There's lots of options, lots of fun stuff. And there's also these conditions. So every one of these condition cards lists what it is. So if someone is stunned the next time they would attack, they just discard it and don't attack. Confuse is very similar, but with thwarting or scheming. Scheming is what the villains do. You notice they have a scheme value. That's how they add threat. So if you confuse them, they won't be adding threat until they get rid of the card the next time they try to add threat. Or when it's you won't be able to thwart and remove. When you try to thwart, it'll just get rid of confused. The last one is tough. The next time this character would take any amount of damage, discard this instead. So it's a nice way if they're coming in with a big, heavy attack on you. Tough is a good way to get rid of that. Okay, so we now have explained basically all the rules of the game. If you want to see a playthrough, it makes a lot more sense as you're watching us play through it. So if you want to watch that, we're going to get to that right now. 9 Down says, hello all and yay for the spiffy tutorial video. Meet me at the table, which is Baron, says, the master teaches the masses. Love it. Peter, you're a great teacher. Love to learn games from you. And 9 Down says, so trippy seeing She-Hulk with aggression, so used to justice. And I didn't get into it, but there's 4 different aspects, things like that. Those are things to get into. The nice part is this game comes with pre-assembled decks. 40 card decks, you don't have to know anything to play. I mulliganed at the beginning. You don't even have to do that at the beginning of the game. You can just take your 6 cards and just go from there. But players always get the first turn of the game, so let's get into it. All right, so I really want to play Helicarrier, and I also want to play Focused Rage. So Focused Rage lets me take a damage to draw a card. Helicarrier lets me pay 1 less resource to play something. Will I be able to do both? All right, so if I spend 3 for Helicarrier, then I will only have 1 card left. So no, I am not going to get to play both of them. So which is more important to me? I mean, gosh, I want combat training. I love Nick Fury because Nick Fury lets you, not only is he an ally who helps you do things. If you notice, allies can do the same stuff we can. You know what? I'm going to play Nick Fury first. So that way you can learn a little bit about allies. Nick Fury has a cost of 4. And again, just as a reminder, in the lower left corner is the resources that the card produces. So I ignore the rest of the card and I only look at the resources. I'm going to spend 1, 2 resources. 3 resources and 4 resources to pay for Nick Fury. So let's see how this goes. I discard all those cards, and then when I look at Nick Fury, force response. After Nick Fury enters play, choose 1. Remove 2 threat from a scheme. Well, guess what? We have no threat on the scheme. We could also draw 3 cards, which is probably what I'm going to do. Or we can deal 4 damage to an enemy. So I could just do 4 damage to Rhino right here and start plinking away at his health. Remember, we win the game by defeating Rhino twice. So it's pretty cool. All right. So at the end of the round, if Nick Fury is still in play, discard him. So Nick Fury is only going to last for 1 round, unfortunately. But right now, I'm going to use him to draw 3 cards. So I'm going to go ahead and draw 3 cards, add them to my hand. We got something kind of nifty here. This card is a double resource. What does it do? Absolutely nothing. You'll notice max 1 per deck is the only cards on it. But instead of just having 1 resource in the corner, it has 2. So it lets me do a second, get a second resource. And I am actually going to use that card along with Legal Practice. So that's 1, 2, 3 resources to put in Helicarrier. Now what does Helicarrier do? It makes my other cards cheaper. Unfortunately, I cannot use that right now because my only card in my hand costs me 3. So that is basically going to be it. Oh no, it is not it. I lied. I'm going to flip over and I'm going to punch him in the face. So I'm going to use my attack to punch Rhino for 3. 1, 2, 3. Again, no reason for me to thwart. There's no threat. My allies get to do the same thing. Now you'll notice underneath the ally values, because that's all they do. They have 3 things that they're good for when they're in play, unless they have a special power here. But they could thwart, just like you can. They can attack just like you can. And they have a health value here. That's how much life they have. Now, you'll notice underneath their thwarting and attacking, though, there's stars. Sometimes there'll be 2 stars. Sometimes there'll be no stars. Most of the time, it's just 1, though. That means every time they do that thing, they are going to take a damage. So these allies are not here permanently. They're just here to come in and help you. We also know Nick Fury is very temporary because, as we said, we're going to have to discard him at the end of the round. Now, that's not the end of the player phase. That's the end of the whole round. Player phase and villain phase. So he's going to stick around a little bit. All right, so Nick Fury, we're going to have him attack as well. Because why not? Do 2 more damage to Rhino, and then we're going to take one of these damage counters and put it on Nick Fury. Nick Fury has taken 1 damage. He has a total of 3 life. That is all we're going to do. Let's look over here and see. After players have finished their turns, they simultaneously discard cards. All right, uppercut's pretty good. Deal 5 damage to an enemy, but I'm going to try to draw cards that kind of give me card advantage. As we saw, I have one that lets me draw cards. I have Helicarrier here. I want to draw more cards. If I play uppercut, that's basically going to be my whole turn. Because on this side, which is another cool aspect of the game, my hand size is only 4. Remember, on this side, my hand size was 6. So I'm going to have a very limited amount of cards when I'm on my She-Hulk side. Excuse me. So I'm going to try to really get some resource generation so I can really start building up lots of cards very quickly. Didn't use this Helicarrier this turn, but that's all right. I'm going to discard the uppercut card, and I'm going to draw back to my hand size of 4 cards. Got those 4 cards in my hand, and then ready each of their exhausted cards. Now in the mod, I just hit this ready button. In real life, I would just unexhaust all of those cards. Now, we are going to the villain phase, and remember, the beginning of the villain phase is to add 1 threat to the scheme, or whatever it says here. So again, in this situation, it's 1 per player. We are only 1 player, so we are only adding 1. Then Rhino is going to attack me. Rhino attacks for 2. I really don't want to defend right now, so I am just going to take this 2 damage. So he's attacking for 2. I'm going to shuffle up the deck and boost it. Remember, only thing that matters is the lower right-hand corner, and there's nothing. So Rhino is just going to attack me for 2 damage. 1, 2. And now I have all these cards in my hand, and oh boy, do I love Hulk. Although Hulk is definitely a hit or miss character, but I love him, and we're going to do it. Although Team Tactics is kind of a fun one too. All right. Oh, I am sorry. I would not have done that. Sorry. This is one of the other best things about Marvel Champions is rewinding. I would have defended with Nick Fury. Because Nick Fury can take that damage for me no matter how much it is. Even if he drew a boost card with 3 icons and did 5 damage, Nick Fury could block all that. We know Nick Fury is going to be gone right after the villain phase, so there is no reason for Nick Fury not to have defended for me here. So Nick Fury is going to defend. When you defend with an ally, you have to exhaust them, and they're going to take all the damage. So let's see. You're going to take 2. I flipped up 0, so that's 2 damage on Nick Fury. Gets him to his life total, but even if he had, like I said, taken 5 damage, it would have just stacked up, wouldn't have mattered. When they reach their life total or more, you get rid of them. There are cards that, what it's called, overkill, and any extra damage goes to your hero, but they are not doing that right now. That Nick Fury card just blocked all that damage for me. So again, normally I wouldn't have defended with Fury, but because he's discarded at the end of the round, there's no reason not to. So we started the villain phase. We placed threat on the main scheme. Then the villain did their thing. Because I was in hero form, they attacked. Now I'm going to deal an encounter card to each player. Oh, I forgot something else. See, even someone who's played this game a lot forgets stuff every once in a while. And actually, Lucas, thank you for reminding me. So she has a response. When you change to this form, deal 2 damage to an enemy. 1, 2. So I did that. Alrighty. Sorry about that. So yeah, you can see, even somebody who's played this game a lot, I sometimes make mistakes too, and it's okay. You're going to miss stuff. You're going to miss triggers, things like that. So just try your best to pay attention to it. Yes, so when I flipped, I would have done that. I forgot to block with Fury, but I remembered now. Now, I still get an encounter card. So we place threat on the scheme. We had them attack me. Now we're going to deal an encounter card to each player. Boom, I get an encounter card. Then each player reveals their encounter cards. Boom, I reveal my encounter card. And this is the Bomb Scare. Guess what? Bomb Scare is a side scheme. That's the name of it. And this is its hallmark card. So we remember, kind of looks like this over here, right? Remember that 0 there? That's how much threat it started with. Here, it's got a 2. So we're going to take threat counters and we're going to add them to bomb scare. And there are 2 on there right now. So that started with 2 threat, and then it says when revealed, place an additional threat per player here. Now I like the flavor text, but I'm going to let you guys read that when you are playing it yourself. This is an acceleration icon. On this set, it actually tells you what it means. It's +1 threat on the main scheme. So remember how you got 1 on the main scheme? Now you're going to have 1 plus the 1 from this acceleration. So at the beginning of every turn, we're going to put 2 threat on until I can get rid of this bomb scare. So hopefully I can do that this turn, although who knows? I've got some other plans in mind, so that might not happen. We'll see. We'll see how this goes. All right. Do I put Hulk in? Hulk can't even thwart. If you look, he's got a dash on him for thwart. I shouldn't put Hulk in. I really shouldn't. There are much better cards and better things for me to do right here. I'm not going to do Hulk. Hulk's got really cool stuff. He basically would, after he attacks, you discard the top card of your deck. If it's a fist, you deal 2 extra damage. If it's a energy, you deal 1 damage to each character, including your own hero, by the way. And if it's a mental, you would discard Hulk. And if it's a wild resource, you would do all of the above. So Hulk can do some really cool stuff. We also have this Team Tactics card here. You would place counters on this. And this is how counters work. You'd place 3 on there. And then as an action, you could exhaust it to remove it and remove a counter to do 2 damage to an enemy. So that's really neat. You can do damage to the villain by doing that. But I'm not going to play that card either. Tiger's really cool as well. She has 2 attack, 1 thwart, but after she attacks and defeats a minion, she heals 1. So she would take that consequential damage and heal herself right afterward. So, actually, she heals before she would take the consequential damage. But bottom line is she heals herself up and then she would take the consequential damage. So she can heal herself. So those are all great cards, but the one I'm going to want to play is Mockingbird here. All right, so I'm going to exhaust the Helicarrier. I'm going to discard Team Tactics and Tigra. So for a total of 3 costs. Remember, Helicarrier, exhaust it to choose a player, reduce the cost of the next card they play by 1. So I'm going to reduce the cost of Mockingbird by 1. I'm going to hold on to Hulk. So I paid 1 less. So I paid the 2 resources from my hands to pay for Mockingbird. After Mockingbird enters play, stun the enemy. That is pretty cool. So Rhino is stunned. Next time Rhino would attack, he does not attack. Now, I am going to flip over. And the reason I am flipping over is because I don't want to draw 4 cards next turn. I want to draw a lot more cards. I want to really build up my engine. So I'm going to flip over. But remember, doing that is going to accelerate how fast this scheme goes by. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to use Mockingbird excuse me, for her thwart ability. You'll notice it has a star under there, so she will take a damage to thwart for 1. And I'm going to have her remove 1 from the main scheme. She could have done that, or she could have taken it off of this bomb scare. I'm going to have her do it there. Before I flip, because on the other side, the only thing I'm going to do is heal. I don't need to heal. I'm going to punch. That's what She-Hulk does. She attacks for 3. I'm going to remove 3 more health from Rhino. And then I'm going to flip over to my alter ego side. And remember, when threat would be placed, I'm going to place 1 less threat because of my alter ego side. I'm going to hold on to Hulk because I want to. Because I love Hulk. And that's it for my turn. So remember, I ready up. I draw up to my hand size. On this size, it's 6. So I don't draw 6 cards. This is key. I could discard Hulk, but I'm not going to. I draw 5 additional cards. So I have Hulk. Excuse me. I have Hulk, and now I have 5 additional cards in addition to Hulk. All right. So that is wow, that is the end of my player phase because I've readied all the cards in front of me. There you go. There's my voice back. All right, so now we place threat on the main scheme. Now we're going to place 1 for this and 1 for this acceleration, but wait, we don't really place 2 because remember, I object, interrupt. When threat would be placed on the main scheme, prevent 1, but only once per round. So that is right now I'll prevent 1, so it only gets 1 on the main scheme. Then the villain doesn't attack because remember, I'm not there to stop the villain and slow him down. So they're going to scheme. They're going to advance their plot. So they're going to scheme for 1 plus whatever boost they get. They got 2 more icons in the lower right here. So that is going to be for a total of 3. 1, 2, 3 more acceleration. Oh my goodness. That's not good, because I don't do a whole lot to remove threat. I had a card that would have helped me, but I got rid of it because I'm not very smart. So that got that up to 4. That's okay. Between that and Bomb Scare, oh my gosh, we are in trouble a little bit here. But that is the villain's turn, and now we draw an encounter card. Remember, after we do whatever the villain does, either attack or scheme. And again, they would do that for every player. Now we're going to draw a card, and we are going to reveal it. And if you're an alter ego, this card gains Surge. So card goes away, and we're going to do something else. If you were on your hero side, that card would have attacked you. Stampede, alter ego, this card gains Surge. If you're on your hero side, Rhino attacks you. But I'm not on my hero side. I'm on alter ego. So let's get rid of that one and Surge again. Rhino likes to attack, if you notice. When revealed, you're confused. If you're already confused, this card gains Surge. So, confused, reminder, that means I cannot scheme, which is not great, because remove threat, thwart. So that's not great, because as we see, this is not looking good. Alrighty, so let's see what I can do. Deal 5 damage to a minion. Well, there's no minions, so that would deal damage to enemy minions, so I don't really need that. Heal 2 damage from any character. That's kind of cool. We got Haymaker, deal 3 to an enemy. Chase them down. If your hero attacks and defeats an enemy, remove 2 threat from a scheme. All right. We're going to try to make this go off. So you'll notice this is response thwart. So if I played this card right now, it would just get rid of my confusion. It would not do that, because confusion, as a reminder, says next time this character would thwart or scheme, discard this status card instead. So it would do nothing. So I wouldn't remove 2. Now, chat, remind me, if I defeat this form of the enemy, so I do these last 4 damage, would I then be able to chase them down when I'm going to the next form, or do I have to defeat the enemy altogether? Please remind me in the chat. I don't remember that one off the top of my head. Because I got Haymaker, which does some damage. I got Hulk, which is going to do some damage. At this point, I'm in a little bit of trouble here, as you can see, because I have no real way to remove threat, and we're adding 4 threat a turn. So, first thing I'm going to do is flip over. When I flip over, I deal 2 damage. Confused does nothing with that, because that just stops me from removing threat. So I'm going to do 2 damage here. Then, I can punch for 3. Hulk punches for 3. I'm going to spend 2. So remember, I'm going to spend my Helicarrier, and I'm going to spend Relentless Assault, because that just removes damage from a, or does damage to a minion. There are no minions in place. So those 2 are going to pay for Hulk. Hello, Hulk. All right, so I am now, Nick says, I don't know how to play, but I'll allow it. I can't remember, because it says defeat an enemy, and I don't think you defeat the one side. Now, by the way, because they keep their stunned effects and all that, so I don't think I can chase them down, because I'm not actually defeating the enemy. But I am going to have Hulk. Hulk doesn't scheme or thwart or anything else. All Hulk does is smash. So I'm going to have Hulk smash. So force response after he attacks. So that first thing we do is the attack. Now you notice there is a star under his attack, so Hulk is going to take 1 damage from doing that attack. So Hulk smash for 3. Villain only has 2, which means we defeat this stage of the villain and advance. We go to the next stage, they get their hit points listed on the next stage, but they keep all their status effects and everything else stays the same. But this says, when revealed, search the encounter deck and discard pile for Breakin' and Taken and reveal it. Well, we haven't seen that yet, I don't think. So I am going to search for Breakin' and Taken. I'm going to shuffle these up. All right, so we flip this over, and again, just as a reminder, it's got a 2 there. That's how many it starts with. Remember, in this box, it starts with 0. If it's got an arrow, that's how much it accelerates each turn. If it's a box, that's how much it starts with. So this one's going to start with 2 threat. 1, 2. And then it says, when revealed, place an additional 1 threat per player here. So this goes up to 3. Now this hazard icon means instead of drawing 1 bad card at the end of my turn, I'm going to draw 2 bad cards. So that's terrible. These side schemes are really stacking up at this point. So I just want to smash Rhino as fast as I can. But right now, it's not happening. So next thing I need to do, though, remember, after Hulk attacks, discard the top card of your deck and look at the printed resource. So let's look at it. That is the worst one. All right, so that is the mental resource. If we look at Hulk, it says if it is a mental resource, you discard Hulk. Hulk, get mad, run away. Bye, Hulk. That was terrible. I checked the FAQ. You can trigger chase them down after defeating a villain stage. Yes, defeating a villain stage is defeating an enemy. All right, so I'm going to retcon this a little. What retcon means is go back a little bit. And not have Hulk smash quite yet. First thing I'm going to do is thwart, which would get rid of my confused. We'll pretend Hulk didn't smash. Hulk's going to smash in a minute. The villain had 2 health left. I would play a haymaker, deal 3 damage to an enemy. If you'll notice, this is an attack. This is coming from me. This is me doing a haymaker. So I would deal 3 damage and knock the villain out of its form. Then I could play chase them down because I don't have my confused anymore, which is a thwart event. After a hero attacks and defeats an enemy, remove 2 threat from a scheme. I could have done it to remove 2 threat from either the main scheme or any of the side schemes. By the way, this Breaking and Taken would not be out probably yet, but either way. So afterward, I'm going to do that. Then I'm going to have Hulk attack. Hulk does 3 damage, 1, 2, 3, and then I drew this card and Hulk gets discarded and makes everyone sad. So I do have this first aid card, heal 2 damage from any character, but not going to worry about that. Oh, well, that's still in my hand. Sorry. It's nice to be able to heal, but you know what? I'm going to use Mockingbird to do 1 damage. I know it seems kind of wimpy, but want to do a little bit of damage here. All right, so let's ready up. Remember, Mockingbird has 2 of her 3 damage on her, so I could block with her and take a bunch of damage, and that way I don't have to take a bunch of damage, but we'll see what cards I draw first. Am I going to hold on to first aid? No, I don't care about healing. I want to smash. So I'm going to draw 4 cards. Ooh, She-Hulk gets +2 attack and discard it to stun an enemy. And I also have Exhaust the Rage and take a damage to draw a card. I also have spend a fist resource and discard this card to ready your hero. And I have Ground Stomp, deal 1 damage to each enemy. All right, so of these, Superhuman Strength is definitely what I want. I mean, I love Focus Rage, but it's not going to be enough. I need 1 more resource to be able to play all of it, and I don't have it. So it's not going to happen, but we are going to add 1, 2. So that's the end of my turn. I drew up my hand, ready to everybody. I add 2 to the main scheme because of this bomb scare here. Now, Rhino is going to attack me. But no, he's not, because he's stunned. Stunned, remember, means the next time this character would attack, discard it instead. So, because I'm in my hero form, Rhino would have attacked, but Rhino doesn't get to attack because I am in my, because he was stunned. But now, I have to draw 2 encounter cards. 1 which I would normally draw, but 1 because this icon hazard means deal 1 encounter card during 1 extra encounter card during the villain phase. It's not 1 per player again, it's just 1. So the first player gets the extra card. If there were 2 of these hazard icons here, the first player and the second player would get 1, or in a solo game, you're going to get 2 extra encounter cards. So it's not per player, but it's just 1. So I have 2 encounter cards to deal with. Could be very bad. First one, hey, you're getting to see all the crisis icons. So this one is 2 per player. And again, doesn't have an arrow, it's just a box, so it's going to get 2 per player. So this is going to get 2 on it. This is very bad. This icon, what it means right here, crisis icon, well, this scheme is in play. You cannot remove threat from the main scheme. So right now, this is going to keep going up, and I can't do anything about it. And if it gets to 7, I lose immediately. So this is very bad. We know it's accelerating at 2 per turn, which means I've got 2 more turns, because next turn it'll be up to 6. The turn after it would be 8. And that would mean I lose to the scheme. So I need to hurry up and do some damage here. Oh my gosh. Attached to Rhino. So this gets attached to him. You'll notice it adds 3 to his attack. So instead of attacking for 3, he's going to attack for 6. And when Rhino attacks, his attacks gain overkill. We talked about this earlier. So overkill means, and the nice part is, again, it's the starting villain, so they remind you of this. Excess damage from an dealt to an ally from this attack, dealt to that ally's controller. At the end of the stage, you discard charge. So charge is a one-time thing. So he's going to attack for 6 plus whatever he boosted to my ally. My ally has 1 health. So let's say he boosted for 1. So it's 3 plus 3 is 6 plus 1 from the boost would be 7. He would do 7 damage to my ally, which would make this, my ally already has 2 damage. That make it up to 9, meaning I remove my ally, who has 9 damage, but any excess damage, that's 6 excess damage, goes to me. So that would be very bad. Yep. So that's what this means. So you can't really block with an ally to help you with this. Now you can defend yourself. I mean, you still block with an ally. I'll take some of the damage, but not enough. But that's okay because I've got a plan. Because I've got superhuman strength. Hero actions. Spend a fist resource and discard this card to ready your hero. Which might need to happen. Okay. We're going to try to make some stuff happen here. All right. I'm going to use this and this focus rage card. So that's 2 resources to pay for superhuman strength. This is an upgrade. Upgrades stay in front of you until you use them or until they go away or whatever. She-Hulk gets +2 attack. So now my attack is 5. After She-Hulk attacks, discard it and stun the enemy. Now that is not optional. It's a forced response. So I have to do that. So I'm going to attack. So I attack for 3 plus 2 more, which makes it 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I get rid of this. And the villain is now stunned. So guess what? They're not going to attack me again, which seems good. All right, so I have some options here. Well, I'm going to attack with Mockingbird. So that does the last damage to Mockingbird. Well, let's do this. So we're going to take 1 damage off the villain. All right, notice she has 3 damage on her. She has 3 life. Mockingbird is defeated and goes to my discard pile. All right, so we have some things to think about here. And this is where some people love this game and some people hate this game. There's a little bit of mathiness involved here. So on my next turn, assuming nothing goes bad, I will be able to attack for 3. The villain right now has 5 life. So right now, I would be able to do 3, and that's it. They'd have 2 life left. Now, if I flip over, remember when I flip back, I can do 2 damage. But if I flip over, we're definitely losing to the scheme here. Like, almost no question about it, even with my reducing it by 1. So I don't really think flipping over is an option. But I do have this Tenacity card in my hand. What Tenacity says is spend a fist resource and discard this card to ready your hero. Now, if I get a fist resource in my next hand and I can play this Tenacity card, not only will I get to do 3 damage, but I will get to ready with Tenacity and do 3 damage again. So I'm going to hold on to Tenacity and pray to God I get a fist. Now, I don't have a fist on this ground stop. That's 1 extra damage. 1 extra damage isn't going to cut it. So I don't have a fist on this, which means it is not going to help me trigger Tenacity. So I'm going to discard it and pray with my 3-card draw that I draw a fist icon or something else that helps me do damage, because I just need to find 2 damage on this draw. So here you go, top decking. All right, we got a fist icon right here in 1-2 punch. Let's see what else it says. After you make a basic attack, using your attack, ready She-Hulk. Well, guess what? I don't even need the fist. I can just use this. I also have Gamma Slam. Deal X damage to an enemy, where maximum 15, where X is the amount of damage you have sustained. Oh, maybe we do that. When the villain schemes, reduce the amount placed on the scheme by 1. So this is a thwart event, which is an interrupt, which means I can do it on their turn. So if they had schemed, I can reduce the amount they scheme by 1. But unfortunately, the villain's not going to scheme on this side, but there may be a situation where they scheme. There's cards called advances where they'd scheme. All right, but let's do the beginning of the turn, because this is going to be the last turn no matter what. So 2, because I can't deal with this threat at all. Rhino now punches me for 3 plus 3 more, and then gets boosted. Oh, wait a minute. Rhino's stunned. Rhino isn't attacking for nothing. Rhino is stunned. So this card doesn't go away because he never made that attack. And now we get 1 encounter card plus 1 for this breaking and taking over here. That's 2 encounter cards. The first one, when revealed, give Rhino Tough. If Rhino already has Tough, this card gains Surge. Well, that is terrible. That is terrible. There goes my math. So Rhino's Tough means next time they take any amount of damage, it's reduced to 0. Let's see what the next card is. The villain attacks you. Now, this is a blessing in disguise. Oh my gosh. This actually worked out. Rhino thinks he's so tough, he's going to attack me. That's okay. You're going to see why in 1 second. So Rhino's going to attack me for 3. Plus 3 is 6. Plus a boost. 7, 8 damage. Oh my gosh. 15 minus 8. I'm down to 7. 1 hit from Rhino. But Rhino has no more cards. And we're going to see why that was actually super lucky. super lucky. The tough was terrible luck, but them attacking me was super lucky. Oh, and remember, charge. After the enemy deals their damage to you, you discard charge. So that's like a one attack thing. Not all of them are, but that one is. So you will see why super lucky. I'm going to attack with She-Hulk. She-Hulk does 3 damage, but they're tough. Gets rid of it. Remember, I have tenacity, which I could use. I have 1-2 punch, which I could use, but that would only do 3 damage total. And he has 5. But I have this card, Gamma Slam, which is She-Hulk's ultimate card, her signature card, if you will. So it's a attack superpower. It costs 4, but I only have 3 resources in my hand. Don't forget Helicarrier. 1, 2, 3, 4 resources. Gamma Slam. It's a hero action attack. So if I had done that before I had gotten rid of Tough, it would have just hit the Tough and done 0 damage. Because it doesn't matter how much. I could do 100 damage. Tough gets rid of all of it. If I had been stunned, meaning my next attack is ignored, and I played this card because it says it's an attack, it would have been ignored. But it is not. So I paid for Gamma Slam. Deal X damage to the enemy to a maximum of 15. X is the amount of damage you have sustained. Well, my hit points are 15. My life is at 7, means I have sustained 8 damage throughout the course of the game. Now, you don't have to track it the whole game. If I had healed myself, let's say I had flipped over and healed for 5, and I was back up to 12, that means I have only sustained 3 damage. So it's your total life minus your current life, basically. Your max life minus your current life is how much you've sustained. So I have sustained 8 damage, so I get to deal X damage to the enemy, where X is the amount of damage you sustain. That's 8 damage. Boom, boom, boom. Let me hear you say wayo, wayo. So that is the end of Rhino. And that is a game of Marvel Champions. And you've probably just seen why I love this game so much. This game is great. 2 seconds ago, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose this scheme. I need to draw a fist card. I drew a fist card, but because of that tough status, that totally messed me up. And that wasn't good enough anymore. Then I had to find another way. So even if you math it out and figure out exactly what you need to do, the encounter cards are going to mess you up. If he didn't attack me, if I didn't get something to attack, my stun of him actually almost messed me up because I didn't take damage. But because I did take damage, now this Gamma Slam card worked. So Gamma Slam would have been useless if he had not drawn that card to attack me. So the highs, the lows, I mean, it is so great. That is why I love Marvel Champions. It's games like this. You have seen today exactly what makes this game so great. So if you love that, you're going to love it in this game. If you don't love it, you are not going to love it. You know, there's going to be some swinginess. It is definitely swingier in solo, or what's called true solo. A lot of people will play 2 characters when they play solo. I think it's a little too much for me. I've never actually played 2-handed. I do enjoy 2-player. 1 and 2 player are definitely my favorite player counts for the game, especially if you're new and learning the game. So anyway, hopefully that was useful. If you have any questions, please ask them in the show notes and I will get back to you. If you're seeing this video and you like it, give it a thumbs up, and also let all your friends know about it and bring them over and introduce them to Marvel Champions. You could skip the beginning where I teach them how to do TTS unless they're going to play on TTS. They don't need that part. They just need the tutorial. And if they want to watch the gameplay too, I think there are some things you learn during the gameplay as well. But hopefully everybody enjoyed that. And it's great seeing everybody. I know there's a lot of chat out there. Thank you so much for everybody in the chat. Steve said, oof, bad timing for Tough. Yes, it was. But I think I see Gamma Slam in the future. Yes, you did, Steve. Absolutely. That was a timely assault, said Lucas. Absolutely. One day talk about making multiplayer decks. Yes, so I'm going to do a tutorial about making decks maybe this week. This week's pretty packed. We'll see. Maybe Friday. Friday, we're not doing normal champions night. We are doing that on Thursday this week because Terrence is going out of town for 2 weeks. So we're going to start, even though we already played 1 week of it, we're going to start all over our campaign, our most recent one for Mad Titan Shadow. So you'll see that this week. And then on Saturday, I am going to try to, because I got 2 hours of streaming for Marvel Champions, I'm going to solo, so it won't be for beginners. I'm not going to be doing the tutorial like I did today. I am going to stream 2 hours. I think I'm doing Mad Titan Shadow. I have a super powerful deck that I want to show everybody because I built it and I'm like, oh my gosh, this thing's ridiculous. And I'm not going to do like speed runs like Brant does. But I am going to play some Mad Titan Shadow with it, as many games as I can get in. I'm hoping to get 4 games into the campaign, 3 or 4 in, and then I'll finish it off on another stream a different day. So what are we saying? Multiplayer decks. 9 Down also says that they have a shy spot for that, for building multiplayer decks. Multiplayer decks, the big key is focusing on one aspect of the game. So if I am the thwarter, I better be the best thwarter there is. Yes, I'm going to have cards in my deck that'll do damage. Almost every hero has cards in their core 15 that'll do some damage or do whatever, but your job is not to do that. And when you're thinking about what do I do on a turn, do I thwart or do I do a little bit of damage here? 99% of the time you are going to thwart, because that is your job. You got to get rid of those side schemes, do whatever else you have to do. Like, that is your focus when you are building a deck. Typically, you don't want to build solo decks where you can do a little bit of everything, because then you're just not going to do anything as well. So if you're the Justice deck, if you're the person in multiplayer that's supposed to be removing threat, that is your job. So your sole focus in the game should be removing threat. Like, if there's no threat to deal with, maybe that's when you take some build-up turns, things like that. Same thing if you're the Damager. Damagers got to get rid of minions first. You got to get them off of your fellow players, unless you just have good protection or whatever else in there. Protection, same thing. You want to protect. Somebody's got to be able to deal with threat, though, and or somebody's got to be able to do some massive damage. So it depends how you want to play. Everybody could do massive damage, and you can just rush down the enemy. But if you're doing that, everybody's got to know, hey, we don't have any thwarting in this game. We just got to attack. So, yeah, multiplayer decks are very interesting. Let's see. Josh says, that was great. Thanks, Peter. Thank you, Josh. I appreciate it. 9 Down. I'm too used to True Solo. I love True Solo, too. True Solo is swingier, though, for sure. And some cards are much better, like Stunning and Confusing are much better in True Solo. They are great in multiplayer, but they are really almost necessary in True Solo if you're not going to have a bunch of allies to help block for you. But a lot of the stuff you do in solo does translate, but there's definitely a difference between solo and multiplayer decks. And maybe we'll do, when I'm doing my deck building, I'll show you, like I built this deck that I'm going to show off for Extra Life on Saturday, and it is very much focused on just doing damage real quickly, getting a bunch of allies out, just doing a bunch of stuff, drawing a bunch of cards. I mean, it's really good. I mean, it's a leadership deck, right? So it's going to be really good. But yeah, it's the sole focus of that for solo. It would work in multiplayer. The only thing I fear in multiplayer is that the other player wouldn't have any fun. I'd be doing so much on my turn and so many things that the other player's just not going to get to build up and do what they want to do on their turn. So I think that's another thing to think about in multiplayer. You could build super powerful decks, but if the person you're playing with isn't doing that along with you, they might feel like they're not contributing. So that's the other thing to kind of consider. I know sometimes Terrence and I will do this where one of us will do protection or whatever else, and they don't seem to do a lot. They certainly help out a lot in the long run, but it feels like they're not doing a whole lot. And so, you just have to be careful of people's feelings in that situation. So 9 Down says, very cool indeed. Thank you, Peter. Well, thank you all. I appreciate it. Thanks for joining me. That's going to be it for this video, but please share this video with everybody you can who you think could benefit from it. If you want to play games long distance, which is what Terrence and I do, definitely show them this and show them how to buy and play on Tabletop Simulator. It's a good teaching video. It's probably not the best Marvel Champions teaching video. I'm gonna be honest. I'm not the best teacher. I'm a little bit all over the place sometimes, but it's a good introduction to the game, I think, and it's a really cool game. They're gonna watch this game and see some pretty cool stuff happen. I didn't plan it this way. I did not stack the deck for sure, but I'm glad it worked out the way it did because it was a really fun, exciting, tense game, and you could see all the highs and lows that come along with Marvel Champions. So anyway, I'm going to say that's it for now, but at least 2 more streams of Marvel Champions this week. We've got Thursday night, we are doing our normal Marvel Champions, and then Saturday for Extra Life, we're going to do it as well. So Thursday at 9 p.m. I'll have the time for Saturday when I talk to you on that stream. But thanks for joining me, and bye!